So CNAB core 10 vote. Oh, before we start, anybody new who'd like to introduce themselves?
I'm John, Pivots as well as a few others on the call. I'm working on building the Harbor registry that will be distributing container images for ISV and Pivotal products. So I'd heard there's some discussion going on about storing CNAB bundles and registries, and we're also looking at the overall secure software supply chain of those things throughout the realm of whoever consumes our software. So just trying to get up to speed on all of these things and take everything in. So.
Okay, thanks, John. Anyone else? Okay, let's make a start then. So the agenda seems to have one item on it, CNAB core 10 vote. All in favour? No? Yeah. So what is there to say? Do we have a list of issues to go through?
Yeah, I'm going to paste them into the agenda right now. Wait for it.
Whoa.
It was a trap. You thought this was going to be an easy meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's step through them in turn then. So how about 142 for starters?
Would it make sense for you to share the screen, Glenn, so we can all see the context for the issue?
Yeah, makes sense. Let me just get my act together with Slack.
Yeah, this was definitely a trap. I saw Reddit pinged me to read a couple of issues, and it's like a good 10.
Okay. So 142. Who would like to speak to that? Anyone? Anyone got opinions? I put something on it this morning.
I added this to the agenda. It's just more of a trying to make sure that we're not overlooking something that would be critical for air gap scenarios with CNAB core. I don't have a particular issue that I wanted to raise, just for people to go back and read the requirements for air gap scenarios and just refamiliarize with them.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed to me that once an invocation image can handle a relocation mapping, that's all it needs to do, really.
Yeah, I think we've worked on this hard, and we've made relocation sufficiently flexible. Where really the only thing that might be different is the the export serialize out. But in either case, I don't think bundles do have to be aware if they're thick bundles. I think this, and if I recall, this issue was back in March and April when we were discussing it. It was that question of, do I have to have a registry? And I think the safe assumption is that if I'm running something like a Helm chart, the images have to come from somewhere. We can't expect the CNAB installer to provide the image registry as part of its executable. Theoretically, you'd be exporting and then importing it to a new registry at which the relocation tooling would, or the relocation spec would give you everything that you need to be able to take advantage of that internal registry.
Yeah. I'm inclined to close this if no one objects.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do.
Any objections? Going once, going twice, closed. Okay. All right. Next, display names for actions. Is Ivan on the call?
No, he's in New Zealand. It's like 3 in the morning.
Yeah, of course he is. That's well, that's going to be a common theme in some of these. Some of these, isn't it?
I took a look at this one today, and I saw Carolyn responded as well. So basically, it's around adding. It would be if we're adding a field that could drive the UI. I'm generally against that sort of thing, just because I feel like it's digging a hole for localization and things like that. We could do something like, say, what Carolyn said that Port is doing is, it'll use the string after the last dot and do a little bit of magic to make it look a little bit more palatable than a reverse DNS thing. But I'm worried that if we start driving the UI from the spec, that's a bad pattern.
Is the main question to answer whether or not this should block the core release, or are we trying to? Because I agree with Chris on this one, and also don't see it as a blocker.
Yeah, we could always add it later, couldn't we?
I agree. Localization is something that we could add that would be completely additive and wouldn't break the core spec at all.
Okay.
He could do what Porter's doing for now and cheat.
Yeah.
There might be something there in the non-normative section to talk about proposing that as a solution to this, but other than that, I don't think there's any action item there.
Okay, should we just leave that on the books then?
I think how about I split out and add a new issue just for localization? Because I think that would be its own addition to the spec, or I don't know, Butcher, how to propose it.
Yeah.
I think just open an issue on localization and internationalization, and we'll work from there.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Is someone taking notes, by the way? That'd be helpful. Deafening silence.
Yeah, I'll take notes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on then. So Carolyn is going to open a internationalization localization issue or issues for 242, 244. Whoa, 244. Try and pin it down. Got it. Oh yeah, multiple invocation images behavior. Another Ivan special.
So my take on this was it'll depend. It's basically we want to match the invocation image we use with the driver and the platform or something like that. I think that's what the intention behind this was. Yeah, I see that Matt's replied. Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry.
You can assign that to me if you want me to follow up and clarify that.
But basically the intention there is not that the different invocation images do something different. It's just for platform and driver matching, I think. Hey, Matt?
There was a request to have it extended for label matching so that you could do ad hoc things. But yeah, I'm not sure if that made its way in. Yeah, it did, because I did the PR for that. So the idea was if you had like one that was tagged, minimal IoT / I386, and then another one tagged I386, then you could choose which labels you wanted to match on and execute it based on that or something like that. But the core intention is to only execute one match.
So this sounds like something we should address for 1.0 because it's a kind of ambiguity.
Yeah, I'll take a look at this. I thought it was clearer in the spec, but I will take a look.
Yeah. Do we have a label for 1.0?
It's a milestone.
Ah, okay. This one. Okay. The previous one we could have flagged as post 1.0, but that's probably going to be a common theme, so let's not bother at the moment. Okay, everyone happy with that? Just flag it for 1.0, and Matt will look into it. Okay. Two, 4, 6. Can you downgrade deployed software by running the upgrade action? I think I originated this in a pull request that was being processed, but so sorry.
So I commented on this earlier. I think that because the logic that does the install and upgrade and everything lives inside the invocation image, we should just punt this to bundle authors. We could have some.
I agree with that.
There's a follow-on issue that kind of talks about the same thing. We could have a non-normative section that recommends a couple of desired UX type things, but I don't think we should be too prescriptive.
Okay, so the answer is basically yes, sometimes. In that case.
Well, I think the spec shouldn't. The spec could explicitly say that it doesn't have an opinion, and that it's the bundle authors problem. If there's clarity that's lacking, that would be the thing I would say we should do. Unless there's strong arguments against that.
Is there a standard way in which a bundle could indicate that it doesn't support this behavior? Would you just panic or something?
Fail the upgrade.
Right.
This is also going to get super complicated when we start talking about dependencies, because then you need every single thing down the entire chain to support it or not. So it's going to get, I think it'll get quite hairy. We really need to punt this to the bundle author and let them decide, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the only argument against punting it is that we can't then change our minds later. If we disallowed it, then we'd be free to change our minds. But I agree, it's probably best to not get our hands dirty on this one.
When you say disallow, would you then force sender on people or something we can check?
Well, I was just thinking that the runtime could fail the operation.
Yeah, but the logic as to whether to fail or not is highly dependent on the actual action, and the runtime doesn't necessarily have visibility into the action that you're running.
Well, it's specifically talking about upgrade here, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, on the internal mechanics of how the bundle does upgrade. The runtime doesn't have any visibility into that.
Sure, but we could have a policy that says the answer is no. The spec says you can't do it, and if you attempt it, it will fail. And the bundle authors are off the hook.
I kind of vaguely remember looking at some example bundles in our example repo where someone had a custom action that was downgrade. And so that was one way to communicate that that bundle supported it, and you would have to go via the custom action instead of through the upgrade.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I think we should maybe punt on this in terms of adding stuff to the spec and add, like, I don't know, a clarification that says that you should only attempt to do upgrade in this type of action.
Yeah. So, Chris, would you like to take that one? The PR?
Sure, you can assign that to me.
I think it sounds like a 1-0 thing, just to have clarification at least, isn't it?
I was also just checking if we enforced semantic versioning, and we do. So we could also have expressly forbidden it. That's
yeah. Okay. Okay. So clarification is coming up now. 245. Whoa. Anyone like to speak to this? So, Radu, you think it's been answered?
Yeah, I think both of Ivan's questions were in some way answered here, and I'm leaning towards this being more related to the claim specification and not to the core specification. So I would be okay with either closing if this is clear, or leaving it open and because it tackles the claim specification.
Okay. Shall we close it and say, please reopen against the claims if it's relevant?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Another Ivan, what's the meaning of read-only in a definition, number 247?
Yeah, I commented on this yesterday. Kind of the summary of this is that an interesting thing about read-only and write-only in the JSON schema is that they're kind of regarded as notes or annotations and not really a validation error. So like a runtime wouldn't throw a validation error if someone tried to change a read-only property, which is why I think that we should leave it in the specification that we would encourage people to throw an error. Doesn't have to be a schema validation error because that doesn't really make sense, but some type of error if someone tries to change a read-only property.
When you say change, do you mean after install?
Yeah, that's right. So like they configured it and then they're trying to change it on an upgrade or some subsequent action.
So do you fancy doing a clarification PR, Bavashi?
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Brilliant. Seven, 4, 8. Whoa, they're in the numerical sequence. Just look what happened here. 2, 4, 8, 9, 5, 0, 5. Well, let's keep going. It was a productive time in New Zealand. Here we are. What should runtimes do with write only in a definition?
I recommend reading Ryan's comment about how write only works with JSON schema, because after we read that, his explanation, I found that to be incredibly helpful. And that for me removed any confusion about how it should work.
I can take this one and update the language in the spec to reflect what Ryan said there.
Brilliant. Okay. (249) How should runtimes handle default in definitions?
Yeah, this issue basically talks about how we should deal with a combination of a parameter that has required and default set. So I said that I was of the opinion if that there is a default value specified and it is required, then the user shouldn't have to configure that parameter and the default should satisfy the requirement. I also think that the runtime should, let's see, right? That the runtime should reject do the validation errors effectively on the parameter that is required and doesn't have a default set. And then I think that last one, oh yeah, I was like mistaken about how outputs were defined, but then Caroline clarified that up for me.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement on 1 and 2. I just want to throw in with 3 that because we kind of use the same structure for it, that we kind of have to get defaults for outputs unless we really change that at this point, how we store definitions for outputs and parameters. We kind of have to get defaults for outputs as well. I don't know if anyone has a real big problem with that.
Who'd like to take this one, do some clarification work?
I can follow up on this one and add a clarification.
Thank you. Okay, 250 spec does not specify how to stringize, non-scalar parameter types. What do you think, Carolyn? Is the answer yes to your question?
I need to read the spec more to understand if there is a gap. But I mean, right now what we're doing is just marshalling it to JSON. So if we don't have that in the spec now, I can just add a clarification that says we should.
Yeah, when we had first talked about this with Ryan a long time ago, that was the intended behavior.
Okay, yeah.
So the magic words, magic word.
I mean, I've been brought up other things about representation of numbers, but I don't know if that's actually something we need to address. I don't know if, I don't want to make that call myself. Can we just think about that for a second though? Like he was asking about scientific notation and how you represent numbers and stuff like that. Like that's not something we need to address, or do we?
The whole issue around numbers is very swiftly solved by canonical JSON, which only allows integers.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's the only time I'm happy about your answer about canonical JSON. Thank you, Radu.
Yeah. Okay, happy with that one then? 15. 51. When is a claim result updated?
I'd have the same comment as I had earlier. This is more related to the claims specification and not the core.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything in here that would block 1.0. Do we have a label for claims? We can just label this one.
Okay. Clarify stateless actions and installation names 252.
I can update the spec with basically what Sylvain says there.
Okay.
He and I had worked on this part together, so.
254, clarify digest validation wording.
I opened a PR for this yesterday. If you go to the bottom, there should be a link to it. Basically, it just summarized the discussion that happened in this issue and in the related CNAB Go issue. So people can review the PR if they're able to.
Can I assign that to you, Jeremy?
Yeah.
In the 1.0 issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. All right, so this is the one that was mentioned earlier. What happens after a failed install action? 237. So 1 and 4 seem to be
I think this this is similar to the one that was assigned to me, the downgrade one. In the case where we need to punt to the bundle authors. In the case of upgrade, at least, I agree that this it would be interesting to be able to rerun upgrade without needing to uninstall your application. That would be a preferred approach, I think. But I still think it really depends on the logic that people have written into their bundles. So we should say, you know, think about this UX, but we don't require we require that like there's no requirement from the CNAB spec side.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So would you be willing, Chris, to take this on board as well?
Yeah, I think it's the same set of things.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking we're adding undefined behavior to the spec, and I'm wondering how this is going to affect my life after this point.
Okay, some wording issues. Hopefully these won't take too long. So, questions and comments from Doug Davis.
Oh, this one is ancient, and I think we fixed all of these way back then.
Yeah, that's the main reason I put it there, because it seems like everything has been addressed there.
Okay. 258.
I think it's a suggestion for some wording changes.
Yeah, you can assign that to me. I'll do that one.
Sorry, who was speaking then?
Butcher.
Yeah.
I can do this one. Nope, Jeremy.
Jeremy, sorry. Distinguished voices with some background noise at the moment.
Yeah, sorry. It's pretty noisy here.
No problem. Oh, go wrong UI. Good. Okay. So we're through the formal agenda. Any other business?
Do we think we have a time frame for the clarifications? Most of them seem trivial. So should we plan to have them ready in, I don't know, a couple of days?
Yeah, let me give you the time frame for what's about to happen on everything. So all the paperwork for JDF is done. The official CNAB foundation will be announced on September 10th. Ideally, the spec would also hit 1.0 on or before September 10th. And as far as I know, there are various press releasey, bloggy kinds of things all lined up across a variety of places that will all land on September 10th, which happens to be when, doesn't happen to be, it was intentionally set for when HashiConf is on day 2, I think. So go ahead, Jeremy.
That's the first day.
First day, yeah. So I think if it would be possible, and it's given that most of these are either small functional changes that are unlikely to impact CNAB-Go, CNAB Go, or Porter, or Docker apps, or any of our projects, or they're just wording changes and typo fixes. I think I would feel okay about us maybe doing an online vote on Friday, maybe. Do we feel like that's enough time to get these things done?
Can we just look at that milestone really quick to see what was in there? Just to have a quick view.
And I'll keep Ivan really, really busy between now and then.
So there's like 2 per person, except for I think you have 3. Does that seem doable to everybody?
We'll go with silence means yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
This looks good to me, but what about the state of Duffel? I know we wanted that to be 1.0 feature complete. I'm looking at the milestone right now. It's 9% complete.
Smoking is permitted in designated areas only. Please refrain from smoking.
That's particularly funny if CNAB is really related to cannabis.
Did you guys not check the stock tickers or something before choosing the name?
No comment.
The acronym itself was not necessarily chosen, but was fairly organic. So,
Like homegrown, you would say? Hand rolled? Yeah, I mean, to be realistic, I don't think we'll hit Duffel 1.0 by next week. But I think we're rolling it into
TSA regulations.
Betas or something like that. That would probably be sufficient for that kind of stuff, right?
I guess if we go back to the initial discussion about Duffel and CNAB 1.0, the main thing we wanted to make sure was that the implementation itself was not going to clash with anything that we planned for CNAB Core 1.0. And I think by now we validated that all of the features that we've set for CNAB Core 1.0 are doable and are not, and there isn't anything breaking in the implementation in Duffel or CNAB Go. Do we agree with that? And if we do, then I guess we can go ahead and simply continue with the implementation of all of the features for Duffel.
I think I generally agree with that. I think that finding that schema, JSON schema versus canonical JSON thing with the numbers was probably the last big thing. Some of these are partially implemented already, like number 747, implement output handling. That's done in the Docker driver already, and I think that's enough to validate that that part of the spec is okay. How we implement it in Kubernetes or with external drivers, I don't think will change too much. Some of these feel like user experience kind of things, like Duffel should tell you where the output's coming from. So I would think I'm pretty comfortable with saying that we've probably validated most of the spec, and these things kind of fall down to experience things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like at first glance, a lot of these are just UX changes with like one bug that you could get around.
If you wanted to align the versions, you could do like a 1.0 beta release or something like that.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to start doing that, moving towards release candidate sort of things. Definitely, once the spec is 1.0 and it's locked down, and we know we're not going to make any more changes, then we don't have a moving. I mean, we haven't really had a moving target, but it will assure that we don't have one, and we can start working on a revision to the spec if we find anything else.
Okay, any other points on that front? Okay, any other business, or are we done?
Just a reminder, the blog posts that that people have been reviewing are gonna go live today, probably part 1, and then the registries as well. Thanks everyone for reviewing. Feedback and comments have been really, really helpful. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Radu, for writing it and doing all the hard work.
Yeah,
That's the
really good.
And then the security draft will follow shortly today, I think, or tomorrow morning.
Different topic. I have a demo for Terraform and Kubernetes and some stuff that we're going to do at HashiConf next week. Would anybody be interested in seeing that at the next meeting? Okay, I'll add that to the agenda for next time.
Great. Any other business?
Let me just clarify the voting procedure for what we would do. The procedure that is currently outlined is that anybody who is listed as a core maintainer on the specification would be entitled to a vote, and that 2/3 majority would carry. Does anybody object to that? Because the guidelines are technically not published yet, so. And then once that happens, then it's labeled a recommended draft. And then the executive committee of CNAB, the org, rubber stamps it. And currently executive committee is Chris Cronin and I. So, so we will be, and then it just becomes a final recommendation. And that's just the way that JDF requires us to do standards through here. So, so essentially it is the core maintainers of the spec who have the votes that count. We can do it in Slack, either in the open or via direct message, depending on how you all feel about that, or we can do it by email.
Does there need to be a record of the vote, of who voted what, or is it just an informal thing?
There currently is no requirement for a record.
Okay.
But though if we'd like to have one, I would be okay with that.
Could we open a PR and just have the record stored there? So we don't have a mailing list or anything, so it feels like.
Oh, that's right, we don't. Yeah,
we don't have that that source of record.
Would anybody object to doing it as a PR?
Sounds good.
Change,
or I guess it would be, yeah, let's do that.
We can change the version to say recommended draft, and then everybody can say yes or no.
Okay. Let's do that and agree to not merge anything during the period in which that PR is open unless by consent of the governed.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. As long as that's clear. Any other business? Next time.
All right. Thanks for facilitating, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you. That was a big slog. You probably had no idea what you were getting into with that one.
That's great. Thanks. Bye.